This is we're still continuing through our series through Ecclesiastes called Life Under the Sun. Will is out of town, like we said, and if you don't know who I am, I'm Chris. I'm one of the other pastors here, and I'm just really excited to actually bring you this message this week. When I was kind of trying to study through it, I was meeting with Will a lot during the week, and we were talking about it, and that's where I'm pretty sure he stole all my ideas last week. So I had to rewrite part of my sermon and all kinds of stuff, and I called him and complained about it, but it's all good. One of the things that we kind of have looked at in this book of Ecclesiastes is that this is a place where we can go to seek wisdom. It's a place that we can find meaning and purpose. Sometimes we might wonder, what's the point of our accomplishments here on earth, right? How many of you have ever wondered, what's the point of the things that I do here on earth? All right, that's kind of what Solomon is addressing in these next couple of chapters that we're going to go over today. He actually has shifted his focus away from all of this meaninglessness of life to now he's actually decided, it's taken him 9 chapters, but he's finally like, okay, here's some solutions. Here's some things that we can do. And I kind of feel like I can follow along with Solomon's train of thought on this too, is that, if you really look at things in your life, a lot of it is pointless. A lot of the things that we do have no meaning. A lot of the things that we choose to do with our lives have no bearing on the kingdom or our future or anything. We kind of just go through life and have things happen to us. But where's the hope in that? If we're ever met with failures or just even simple boredom, there's nothing to look forward to in a life that has meaninglessness. Hopefully that's not all there is to life. Life under the sun, the S-U-N sun, is what he continuously compares life to. It's just life every day outside. You're just going around. It's just under the sun. That's it. Life under the sun, there's a vanity that we will struggle with to try to find our purpose and our meaning. If we don't find it in God, then we're going to look for other people. We're going to look for things in ourselves. We're going to look just, the random sports teams that we might find. That might be our purpose. And so we have to find a way to put God as the point of our purpose. The message from Ecclesiastes is not that everything is meaningless and nothing matters anymore, because God is now the source of all of our meaning. There's goodness, and we can live a life that we are given because everything will matter if we focus on God. Over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of been wrestling about injustice and some of the things that God does to us and why is it that we have to die and all that kind of stuff. And that's what Solomon was trying to figure out. And he kept saying all of those things are pointless. Everything happens to us, whether we're good or bad, right? So it doesn't matter. In chapter 9, there's a new theme of resolution, of a fix that Solomon has for our life. We're going to start. We're going to just read through Ecclesiastes 9, verses 1 through 6 all together. And we're going to talk about some of the things that Solomon has to say. He says, "So I reflected on all of this and concluded that the righteous and the wise, what they do are in God's hands. But no one knows whether love or hate awaits them. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so it is with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil that in everything that happens under the sun, the same destiny overtakes all. The hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterwards they will join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. For the living know that they will die, and the dead know nothing, and they have no further rewards, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished, and never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun." So Solomon's kind of wrestling with the injustice and the severity of the world. Solomon begins to try to make sense of it. In light of our limited abilities to understand the world, there comes a point when you have to look beyond what you can see and begin to explore faith to be something greater. These verses assume that the baseline belief in a God who is in control of all things and is difficult to understand. Right? Solomon is saying, God is here. I can tell that he's here, but I don't understand everything about him. And that's going to be true for each of us. Solomon, as we've said before, was the wisest man on the planet. And if he didn't understand God, what chance do I have? God's in control of all of the things that happen in our lives. Solomon tends to have the worldview that the world is in the hand of God. That's Solomon's worldview. Everything happens, and it's in God's hands. We're uncomfortable with this because we assume that we're the captains of our own souls and our own destinies, right? A lot of us want to say, hey, I get to choose what happens. I get to direct my life. I get to be in charge of everything. Yet we know that we're not that powerful, right? We like to think that we are more, we like to think that, but we are a lot more fragile and dependent than we would ever care to admit to be. The words of Solomon say that we're in God's hands. It speaks about his power because God made everything. So if we're in his hands, God has done everything. And we're in his sovereignty, which means God's in control of everything. All that we have to do under his supervision is just wait until his ultimate judgment. When we consider the reality, it naturally leads us to this question, right? If there is a big God who created everything, exists eternally, and actively engages with his creations, then where do I stand in that? Love or hate is speaking about the acceptance and the rejection. Some of us will walk in tension with each other before we stand before God. Some of us will walk in harmony before we stand before God. In Psalm, it says that at the right hand are the pleasures of God. The writer of Hebrews wrote that it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. But which one is it? Is it going to take us to be observing the outcome of everyone else and kind of being like, well, I want to do what they did? Or are we going to try to decide for ourselves who we're going to follow and who we're going to be? A lot of times we're going to look at people and we're going to say, oh my gosh, look at the amazing success and amazing things that they've done. I want to do what they're doing. I'm going to shape my life after that person. But that doesn't always work for us, right? I mean, a lot of boys growing up want to be professional athletes. And when it doesn't work out, the first time you get cut from a team or any of that stuff, what happens? Your whole worldview and your whole plan for your future is suddenly stopped. It doesn't work out that way. It doesn't even work out that way for most professional athletes. Many of them only spend a year or two playing their sport, and then they're done, and they're injured for life. Many of you might have heard about the recent retiring of Andrew Luck from the Indianapolis Colts. He decided to retire because he wanted to live his life instead of living a life that was injured. And a lot of people hated him for it. We all chose to take our brief entertainment of him playing a game and project it onto him as, you're ruining my life because you're going to take time away to live your life. There was tons of Colts season ticket holders who asked for their money back and sent hate mail and all kinds of crazy things like that. And he's just a person who plays a game. We're always, it's not always going to be that easy for us, right? Not all of us are going to do things that people are going to send us hate mail for, right? A lot of times we're going to get rebuked in an invisible way. You might do something to someone that someone's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to make sure I talk about them behind their back later. And so because of that, we don't always know what we're doing and who we're going to. But if we're only focused on ourselves and what we can do, then we're going to constantly run into those issues. A lot of us also feel like if we see people who are bad, we want justice against them. We want to make sure that the wicked find what they deserve, right? That's how a lot of us focus on. We don't ever really focus on, that person's not a very good person, I hope they get grace and mercy. That's not our typical response. But we want that for ourselves anytime that we mess up. But the problem is we have the same fate coming. Doesn't matter, wicked or good. Solomon says at the end, we're all going to die. So you can go around and avoid being committed to God all you want. You can deny his existence all day long. You can also believe in him all day long. But at the end, we're all going to die. Eventually, it all happens to each of us. So where in this life is there hope? If we all have a life that lives in hope, right? If we follow God and we have him as our center point, that means we actually have hope. One of the things that I thought was very interesting, and it's not really the same for today as an understanding, but Solomon wrote, it's better to be a dog than to be a dead lion. And a lot of us might be like, okay, yeah. But you guys know that when Solomon was writing that, dogs were not part of your family. Dogs were the nasty animal that sat under the table and ate your food. They were like a despised part of society. Dogs were not, they didn't sit on the laps of anyone. Nobody cuddled with dogs or let them lick their faces. That would be the worst thing that could happen, and it still is if any of you do that. But lions were a sign of nobility, right? He's saying it's better, though, to be this lonesome, sorry dog than to be a lion who is dead. So even if you're miserable now and you don't think that death is the answer, there can be a hope, right, in our future, in our lives today. There's a specific hope that he mentions. We have the shadow of death that it will give us opportunity to respond to the reality of our small world that we're a part of. The writer of Hebrews points it out in this way, and as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this is judgment. We can evaluate our lives now and our relationships with our Creator, but later it will not come, right? If we continuously focus on the now and we're not looking towards the future is never going to come to us. When we die under the sun, there's no more favors for us. It's a permanent and total passing. If we live that way, there's death. We'll get rid of all of our affections, all of our angers, all of our anxieties. They're all going to die with us, if that's what our focus is. There's a totally different death and a different permanence that says that forever they'll have nothing more to share. We can engage with the truth of death because there's hope for the living. Christians should pray for the living. We should serve the living. It is good to honor people that have passed, but that should not be our focus. We should be looking around at the people around us who are alive, who need our support, who need our help, and be for them. Christianity is not a religion of people who have tried to save for the dead, right? Even our Savior is not dead, he is alive. And if we were focusing on a Savior that was dead, our hope would there'd be no hope. It would just be, there's the end. We join together with the living today. You can look around. There's people around you that need your help. They might not even ask for it. They might not ever reach out to you and say, hey, these are the things I'm struggling with. Can you please pray for me or help me? But you know what? They're there. You can just pick anyone in here. Any of us, right? We all have something that we would love someone to help us with, and we're not going to ask for it. And maybe you can just find those things that you can do for people. Because one day we are going to die, but all the other days, we're not. Right? Every other day that we don't die is another day to do something. In verses 7 through 10, Solomon speaks about what life should be like since we're not going to die. He says, go and eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, and God has already approved all that you're doing. Let your garments be always white. Let not be oil lacking on your head. Enjoy life with your wife whom you love, all of the days of your vain life that he has given to you under this sun. because that is your portion for life, and that is your toil at which you will toil under the sun. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all of your might, for there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in all of Sheol to which you are going. So one of the things that Solomon is saying in here, and he's telling us to go, right? He says, go out. The most urgent commandment right throughout all of this, he's saying, go out and just live your life. It says there's about 4 or 5 times so far in the last 9 chapters where Solomon has said, go out and do things. Go enjoy your life. This is a call to action. He says, get out of bed. Stop worrying about all the busyness of your life and start just living it. He says, go, eat, drink, have fun. Don't complain that you get to go to work. You get to enjoy the company of other people. You get to participate in life. Solomon's telling us, let's just go do that. God's already approved of all of these things for us. Why don't we just enjoy them? All of the good things in our life that we enjoy are God's ideas, right? The things that are good are not the things that are evil, right? The things that are good for us, those are the things that God has put in our life. One of the things that he said, like he said, he goes, go to work, go do it, go find what it is and go to work and do it and enjoy it, have fun. He has created each of us for a purpose, and each of our purposes has to relate with the things that we do. The Bible often talks about a predestination. Before you're born, God created the world full of things for us to enjoy. To be clear, we're not justified just because we enjoy the things of the world, right? That doesn't do us enough. But we are justified by faith in the one who created all of those things. Those who trust that God is above the sun don't fear the approval of what they might do. But they might do things, right? We might work because because those things are approved by God. This is kind of what the purpose of the gospel is. That God gives us life, purpose, and meaning, even though we have a fallen world, so he gives us things to enjoy as part of it. It's not the message of eat, drink, because tomorrow you're going to die. It's eat and drink because it will have glory. God made us to need food and refreshments, but he also makes it so that it's good. There's lots of great food, right? Everyone can think of their favorite place to go eat. That's not necessarily the worst thing, right? And just enjoy those things. God is pleased when we are pleased in his provisions. We have some belief that if we turn away from the things that are enjoyable in the world, that we are being more spiritual, right? That's a lot of people are like, oh, if I just make sure that I don't ever go out and enjoy anything, that makes me more holy. That's not what Solomon says in this passage. Solomon says, go out, be a part of what's happening, be a part of the community that's around you, be involved in the world. It's kind of like, if you could imagine at like a birthday party, if you gave a kid a present and they opened it and were like, oh, awesome. I'll play with this later when it's okay and I don't, it's like I'm going to put it off to the side. How many kids have ever done that? Kids don't open gifts and go, oh, okay, great, and throw them off to the side. They are excited every time, right? They're like, wow, look at this. I want to play with this now. Especially my son, he's going to be 4 next month. Wow, that's weird. Yeah, he's going to be 4 next month. And every time that we've had a birthday party for him so far, every time he opens a present, he's like, I'm ready to play with this toy right now. And we're like, well, you have to wait because you have other things to open. But our life, if we're given a gift by God and we open it and we're like, hey, this is really great, God, thanks so much, and we just put it on the back. That happens to us all the time. We have to celebrate the things that are good. We have to make sure that we know that these things are good. We have to make sure that that when we receive things that are from God, we accept them with thanksgiving. How could you, in good conscience, accept a gift from God and not give him thanks for it, right? That'd be hard to do. God also gives us comfort. Solomon talked about wearing white clothes and having oil. Those are things that in Israel, if you wear white and have oil, that helps you so that when it's hot out, you're not too hot, right? The clothing style, wearing white. It was actually one of the things that I read from a different person who kind of looked through the Bible and was more educated than I am. He said that it was expensive to get white clothing because it was hard to keep it clean like that. It was a lot easier to get clothing that was darker and to wear it, and then you would kind of be hot and you'd have like a little bit of a miserable day. He also talked about the oil, that not everyone could afford oil. And if you had it, that it was great if you could use it. Solomon wants people to do those things because he's saying, yeah, it's still hot, and yeah, it's going to still be uncomfortable, but how about you just take the things that you're going to need to make it less uncomfortable? There are going to be difficult circumstances in our world, and God's going to give us tangible items to ease our discomfort through those things. One of my favorite TV shows is called Parks and Rec, and in it they have these characters that do, every year they have a day called Treat Yourself. And I always think it's really funny because in the show what they go do is they take their paycheck that they got for that one paycheck and they spend the whole thing on like whatever they want, items. And so one of the really funny scenes that they have in this show is that they convince their boss, who is like a real stickler for money, and he's always like, no, we need to like make sure we're not doing crazy things with our budget and all this kind of stuff. And they take him out and they're like, just buy something. Just once, buy something fun. And he buys an entire Batman outfit, like the leather one. And then he walks around and it's like the middle of summer when they're doing this. And he talks about, they're like, isn't this a great purchase? And he's like, yeah, but now I'm extremely hot. And they're like, yeah, but you look awesome doing it. And so that's kind of the thing. Like, a lot of times we might think that, it's not necessarily that extreme, but sometimes we got to do things that we're going to enjoy, right? Things that we're going to have fun with. His character, he never did anything fun. It's kind of the whole point of their taking him out to do that. They were like, go, we want you to just do one fun thing. And he does this real crazy fun thing, but he has fun. It's easy to enjoy our experiences and our comfort in our world, especially if we tend towards that self-indulgent mentality, right? If we're like, man, every time I get paid, I'm going to go buy a new Batman suit, that's going to get real expensive real fast, and you're going to run out of the things that you need. But if we are smart about it and we do the things that we're supposed to do through God, we can be comforted because we're going to have a life that's free from the bondage of sin, and we can still have things that are good. Solomon also says that we should have committed companionship. He says that one of the greatest gifts that you've been given by God is marriage. He says, you have a wife, enjoy your life with her. We all know that Solomon was a person who enjoyed that too much and made it so that if you don't know, Solomon married a lot of people. He made a lot of poor choices in that. But he still has the wisdom of knowing, hey, if you have a wife who you enjoy, spend your time with her. He says that you're going to love her because you're the only one who loves her that way. So go and spend time with her. It's a unique and exclusive joy that comes in with having that focus on your earthly devotion to someone else. Your spouse is often kind of referred to as your portion. It's good. There's good times and also there's times of bad, right? There's going to be good times with your wife and bad times. But the reason that you invest in that person is so that when you go through the bad times, they aren't that bad. It's made for our joy. It's kind of difficult, right, to always give like encouragement when you run into a time of defeat. But if you have a strong relationship and you've been working on it, then that person can encourage you through your times of struggle. And that's what Solomon wants us to do. He wants us to invest, to be a part of what we're doing, to be a part of the connections that God has blessed us with. A lot of times, we find solace in our marriage, right? Usually for me, I know this is true whenever I have a tough time, the person I go to first is my wife. I'm not going to go find someone else to talk to. I'm going to go talk to her. And that's because we have a bond that we have built that I trust, that I know that if I talk to her, things are going to work out. It says that we should give affection and pursue our enjoyment all of our days with our lifelong companionship. It's a small sliver of a picture of the eternal purpose of marriage. We should enjoy and cherish our families in every season that we have with them. That's one of the things. I have young children. It's great because every time I leave, they want to say goodbye to me. And I know that won't last. But I'm going to take it while it's there. Every time that my oldest son sees me anywhere, he runs and he's like screams and he's like gives me a hug, and it's great. And I know that when he's older, I'm not going to get that. But maybe I can do that to him when he's older, and then he'll get embarrassed and it'll be good. But we'll see what happens. We also know that we have a calling in our life. Because life is short, we have to work hard. Solomon says to work where we're called. And where is it that we're called? Well, guess what? It's wherever you are. Wherever you're at, that's where God has called you to be. You shouldn't always look around and feel like, oh, I wish I was here, I wish I was there. I wish my job was this job instead. Try to realize that the place that you're at right now is where God wants you to do something. There's going to be an opportunity for you to connect with someone. There's going to be an opportunity for you to share. And you have that opportunity just because of where you are now. It's one of those things, it's really easy to kind of become like a sloth and disengage from the realities of the world or even our workplaces. It's easy to pull back and say, you know what, I'm not really supposed to talk to anyone here. I'm not really supposed to do anything. I'm going to just show up and work. But because we have a bold and confident God, we can be bold and confident in his power. And we can talk to people. We can make connections. Everything is going to be put into our hands because we're going to have work to do. One of the things that has helped me actually become more passionate about my work is doing this study in Ecclesiastes. It's been really cool to read through it and to I meet with Will on a weekly basis and we talk about the passages, and it's been really neat to kind of read them and talk about it and to realize that Solomon has a purpose for writing these things. And at the beginning, it seemed like Solomon's purpose was to be a complainer and to be like, look, everything is so pointless. I don't know why you guys do anything you do. But as he has written, like I said, it's taken him 9 chapters to kind of finally get to this point. But he writes and he says, go, be a part of this. Be happy. God has made you to be happy in this. So one of the things that we should do is we should be more active and energetic in our jobs, right? And practical in the things that we do. We should work thoughtfully. We should try to grow our own abilities so that we can use new skills and wisdom to interact with people. We can do all of it right now. If you're going to wait till you're dead, it's never going to happen. John 9:4 says that we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day, because the night is coming when no one can work. What John means in this phrase, that night is coming, every time they kind of talk about that in Israel, they're really talking about death. They aren't talking about the sun going down. They're talking about when your life is done, when the nighttime of your life comes. You're not going to have a chance to do this anymore. And so while you can, do the things that you can do. Because our faith is in the one who has made things enjoyable, we can be free to enjoy all of our food, all of our drink, our spouses, and our work. We're not surprised when things become tough or unpredictable. The last little piece of information that Solomon kind of writes to us in some of this is that he has like a buckle up and keep going mentality. He has that like, yes, things are not going to be always fantastic, but just pull up your bootstraps and keep pushing forward. In verses 11 and 12, he writes, again, I saw that under the sun, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor the bread to the wise, nor the riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance will happen to them all. For man does not know his time, like a fish that is taken in a net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at evil times, and it suddenly falls upon them. So yes, there are great things for us to enjoy and to be about for this life, but don't think for a second that anyone's got it figured out. None of us know all of the good things to do in our lives. Solomon is saying that there's going to be upsets. Sometimes your favorite team doesn't win. The strong don't always win or dominate. One of the things that I can say I'm happy about with that is you guys know that the Los Angeles Dodgers have been to the World Series the last several years in a row and lost every single one of them. It's been awesome, right? I mean, just because they spend all that money trying to do whatever they're doing and they keep losing, that's how it should work. Life is going to be unpredictable in that way. You can be fast and still lose. You can be strong and still lose. You can be smart and skilled and wise and be poor. Proverbs 3:16 says that there are riches and honor and wisdom, but there are also exceptions. Being in the hand of God brings us to a place of faith, but it also blows up any sense of our self-confidence. Our wisdom, our intelligence, and our skill are not always guarantees of our provision, our wealth, or our favor. Our seasons of life are going to be unpredictable and inescapable. Fish don't have a choice when they get caught in a net. They don't get to go, oh, I'm going to turn around and get out of this net. Same thing when he's talking about the snares for a bird. Birds, when they get caught in a snare, don't get to decide, oh, I'm going to untie this snare off of me, and I will be fine. Things are going to come suddenly because of time and chance. Chance is not always random. It is timely, and if things appear outside of what we're able to predict, but they're not beyond what God has already ordained to happen. God knows you're going to go through those things where you're going to get caught in those nets. We live in a fallen world where evil and sin have an impact on our lives. We can't predict what's going to happen every day. We don't know what the next calamity will be in our lives. There's no way that we can predict those things. Man doesn't know this. We're like the fish, unaware that we're swimming into the net. Fish don't just stop swimming because there's a net, though. Do you guys know that? That's how other fish get caught. So like when there's a net, it comes and the first fish that hits it goes, oh, there's a thing, and keeps trying to just swim through it. And the other fish will go, oh, let's all try to swim through this thing. And more fish get caught in nets. That's how they do. That's how they fish with nets. Because fish, all they do is swim. Our response shouldn't be to fear what's around every corner, but to keep going. It's a call to endurance and for an unpredictable world. We get to rest later. We have that hope of there's a world coming later where we're going to get to take our rest. In Ecclesiastes 9:13 through 18, Solomon talks kind of about like a saved city idea. He says, as I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great siege works against it. But there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. But I say that wisdom is better than might. Though the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words were never heard, the words of the wise are heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Wisdom is better than the weapons of war, and it takes one sinner to destroy much good. So there is a good and right hope in our life that this life has to come. We can go, we can enjoy work, we can endure, and we can rest later. These verses speak of a little city found in the state of oppressive defeat. Cities in Israel, when they were small and a great king would come against them, most of them would just be like, all right, just put down the gates, let them come in. We don't have the resources to battle this. But what is the church if it's not just like a little city? What is the world apart from God if we're not God's people? We know that the sin from Adam infects each of us, and one sinner destroys much good. But we look to one righteous man, Jesus, who cast off all of the riches of heaven, because Jesus, though he was very rich, for our sake became poor. Because his poverty can become our riches. Jesus didn't have a place to call home while he was here on earth. Jesus hung on a cross and the whole world was against him. Everything was laying siege against him, despising him, rejecting his words and all of his rules. And everyone in the crowd was shouting, "Crucify him." We sang that song, the Red Letters, talking about you can hear your own voice yelling those words, "Crucify him." Because there were people in that crowd who followed Jesus around while he was teaching and doing great things, and they were yelling that. There were the people that were close to him who, when asked, "Hey, do you know Jesus?" they said, "No, we don't know who he is." But Jesus remained silent during all of that. He didn't speak out against those people. The cross looks like a time of defeat against the strong. But we all know that it doesn't last. There's resurrection. Because death wasn't the end for Jesus, and it's not the end for us. Jesus promised a life for those who place their faith in him. He also promised a return with a new heaven and a new earth. Not just a small city, but an eternal great earth. And it's not because someone forgot about God that he's going to bring this back. It's because we are his chosen people who he wants to reward. He's the greatest king. He will never be forgotten. His praises will be sung forever. 1 Peter writes it like this: "Blessed be the God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for his salvation ready to be revealed in the last times." Because Jesus died one day for us, we all get to live for others through him. This is a hope and a promise for each of us who trust in Jesus. We have that opportunity. And so I would urge you, church, to do that. We each have a small amount of time on earth. We each have a small piece of what we can do. But if we don't do what we can do, people will never know. If we're going to be that small city that's being laid siege to, why don't we listen to the wise words and find a way to get through the tough times, because we know that there's a hope in the future. We have coming up a Back to Church Sunday. It's in 2 Sundays from now. You have the opportunity to invite someone, and I would encourage you to do that. Each one of us knows someone that we could invite to church. And we don't have to be afraid to just say, "Hey, would you come to church with me?" I saw some really interesting stats that said that 82% of people, this is from the Barna group who does a lot of research and they interview people. They said 82% of people would go to church if they were asked. But we don't ask. I don't ask. We have to be able to be bold enough to go to them and say, "Hey, I have a place that I would like you to come check out. There are people there that are just as messed up as me, and I want you to see what it's like. I want you to come and connect to learn how to be loved and how to grow." And eventually we'll see a changed life through that. I'm going to have the band come back up now.